Munnecke. I started the Uplift Academy in order to focus on what's working in the world and how can we do more of it. Yes, there's lots of problems. There's tremendous suffering and misery and no end of really, really bad things that need to be fixed. But there's also a tremendous amount of good stuff that can be amplified. And I'm not saying that there aren't problems that need to be fixed, but my personal focus is this appreciative inquiry, positive psychology, positive deviance model of saying, here's a good thing, let's do a little bit more of it. And if you do that at a large enough scale, things will continue to get better. And some of the things that we previously saw as problems may not be problems anymore. And looking at problems from what's working and the positive, life-affirming qualities that we're seeking can change things. So if all you're doing is trying to fix all the problems in the world, you might find that, number one, you've created more problems than you started with, and number two, you've got a never-ending quest. So after my personal do something moment in India 5 years ago, I said, what can I do to apply my skills and talents to make the world a better place? And it's launched me on a journey here, amongst other places. And it's kind of a common theme that I've noticed in people. So I've been using the resources that I had, skills that I had in my career, and learning a whole lot of new things. I've called myself a recovering computer geek. But some of the stuff I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what I understand about networks, and networks with a capital N. It's a different thing than the popular conception, and how it changes things. And we're going through a huge change in the world, and I think it's very exciting. So we're at the seed stages of some huge levels of global transformation. So if I could talk about network theory a little bit and a geek's view of networks, we can talk about three kinds of networks generally. One you could call the Sarnoff Network, the other the Metcalfe Network, and the other the Reed Network. The Sarnoff Network is David Sarnoff, television era. You have this central NBC, CBS broadcast, and you have all the listeners on the edge. So this is what you see on Times Square and Channel 2 and Channel 4 or whatever. And it's a centralized model of mass media. And the value of the network goes up with the number of viewers. So it goes up N. And this is what we think of in mass media, and it's obviously a huge industry. My general feeling is not to tilt those windmills directly. The internet came along, and it was a different model. Instead of the intelligence being in the center, or if you want to call it networks having intelligence, but the control being in the center and everybody else is out on the side, this has been referred to, by the way, in the news media as we chew, you swallow media. And so the internet came along 20, 30 years ago, and it was a peer-to-peer network. People on the edges could talk to each other and exchange emails and web pages and things like that. That's called the Metcalfe model, and that's kind of what drove the dot-com boom. And the value of the network goes up with the square of the number of people on the network. So, you know, I could have the world's greatest telephone, but if I can't talk to anybody on my stereophonic quad high-definition telephone, it's not a very valuable phone. So the old handset that I could talk to anybody in the world is a much more valuable phone. So the value isn't in the quality of the telephone, it's the connectivity. So that's really what fueled the dot-com and the web as we saw it. So that was called Metcalfe's Law, and Bob Metcalfe is quite famous for that. The Ethernet kind of came out of that model. So this inversion from smart center, dumb edges to dumb center, smart edges was really quite dramatic, and that's what's playing out in the net neutrality stuff. But it's really pushing the intelligence out to the edges. The third level is David Reed at MIT now, and he spoke at our Boston workshop, and he has a thing called Reed's Law, and it's called of group forming networks, where you start connecting groups of people, and the value of the network goes up with the exponent of the number of people in the group. So all of us have our own networks, and Darlene has her art network, and Ethan has a soccer network, and Toby has her Generations Online network. If we connect these networks, it's more than just the value of 4 nodes being connected, but it's 4 times all these other people being connectable. So this goes up hugely faster than the Metcalfe network or the Sarnoff network. So how do you get groups to connect? And by the way, when you start connecting people in groups, the value proposition goes off through the gross national product very quickly. And so David said, well, the thing that limits us is attention. Instead of money or constraints, it's people's attention. I mean, there's too much information on the internet, on YouTube and everything. It's not a shortage of information. It's not like you have to dig out information, go down to the library. It's this overflow. So suddenly we're in an abundance situation rather than a shortage, and it's a matter of allocating attention and getting attention. So now if you combine this, Reed's law of group forming networks, with this notion of people paying attention to themselves rather than the central programmer at NBC, you have this incredibly powerful dynamic of people talking to each other and paying attention and doing good things. So the explosion of value that you could get, if you could figure out a model of people paying attention to each other, letting go of the central control model, and getting groups to talk to each other, getting women in Mali to talk about nanofinance and microfinance and savings-led microfinance, figuring out ways of getting the value to be delivered by a bit stream rather than atoms, so you don't have to send shipping containers, you just send information, and getting people to pay attention to each other. So this is a radical innovation that the people in the center aren't going to push. You know, NBC doesn't want its viewers talking to each other and bypassing their advertising model. So the tremendous difference here, and I don't think anybody knows how it's going to play out or what it's going to do, but it's very ripe for very creative people to take some action and plant some seeds that will, I think, explode. Another theme here I'd like to talk about is, I call it network abundance. We're used to problems being, we don't have enough resources to accomplish something. So there's the standard framing of things in philanthropy is, we have too many problems and not enough money. And oh my gosh, we can only work on the worst problems. The Copenhagen Convention had a big meeting on this, and they had, if you had $50 billion, and what are the top 10 problems you'd spend your money on? So I call this a beauty contest for problems. And you have this panel of judges who were economists, and everybody parades their problems in front of the judges. Oh yes, AIDS is worse than poverty is worse than lack of soccer. And so what are we going to do, lack of soccer or AIDS? Well, maybe AIDS, poverty, women's empowerment, free trade are all really the same thing, and maybe you can just do one of them and ramp them all up. But by framing it as only the worst problems get only the money, in this notion of scarcity, really cuts out a tremendous amount of the energy and the flow and the transformation that one could have if you started thinking about networks and people working together. So I don't use this notion that we don't have enough money. In fact, I don't do fundraising either, as Nipun does. But if we start looking at what is abundant, things change. And I think if you listen to the stories, Lyndon's story about after 9/11, there's an incredible resilience and abundance that came out after the tragedy that we don't talk about. We don't have that in our forefront of our consciousness. So when you start thinking about networks and bringing together these people in groups, things can happen very quickly, very inexpensively, if not free. And good things can happen without it turning into this UN-approved subcommittee on hand washing or whatever you want to have happen. So we don't need to look for other people to do it. We can do it right here. We can do it ourselves and plant the seeds and make it going on. So this notion of abundance is happening with the network from a purely technological basis. There's obviously religious connotations to abundance that we don't talk about. If I'm not saying we don't talk about it, but we don't need to talk about the religious notion of abundance. Just purely at the human level of goodness, we can all do things. And one of the things about virtues is they're not scarce commodity. You're becoming more peaceful doesn't take peace away from me. If you buy a gallon of gas, I can't have that gas anymore. But just about any virtue that you have probably amplifies that in me. So if you want to talk about this viral model of uplift of things spreading, you don't need to talk about this being a scarce allocation problem. Oh my gosh, how can I be peaceful? I want peaceful over there, or whatever. So and Toby you can be your generation's thing. Ethan can do his soccer, and Darlene can do her art. reinforcing everybody's efforts here. I mean, it doesn't have to be a competitive model of scarcity. So again, but by focusing on this, that which is abundant and replicable and infectious, if you will, with the network technology, particularly getting it out into the third world or less developed countries, which I very much recognize aren't represented here, I think would be a very powerful model. So yes, there's a lot to do in the United States, but I'd really like to see this happen externally. The other theme that I've noticed, and both Christine and Toby talked about with this Purpose Prize winners, is this baby boom generation, if you want to call them that, 70 million people that are turning 60 next year. They're going through this transformation themselves of searching for new meaning in their lives. They're not going out to buy the latest fashions or going to nightclubs. They're investing in different things. They're looking for meaning in different ways. And they have a different notion of where meaning comes from. And I think that's another demographic shift that we haven't really paid much attention to, and I think is quite powerful. Here we've got the 70 million people donating and spending money to make the world a better place with trillions of disposable income. And instead of the 18 to 34 consumers, we have the 60 and above donors, if you will. Tremendous activities there. So that's just an idea. What are we going to do with this? How do we tap into this energy? Things like that. The particular topic here that I wanted to start talking about on the workshop is what is the new media potential for this infectious good model? How can we take these ideas, and there's no shortage of good things to be pointed to, by the way, but how can we use this new media instead of 3 minutes of somebody in their bedroom talking gibberish into a webcam? How can we use this into creating positive good, and what are the means that we can do this? I don't think anybody really knows how to do that. I think we're all exploring this. YouTube is only a year old. But what can you do with the 3-minute video instead of a 90-minute documentary? What's the cost trade-offs, and what can you do about getting something out immediately and having people respond to things, and getting that creative energy going at the edges of the network rather than expecting the network to broadcast something next year at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. So there's this shift from the Sarnoff Network to the Reed Network, or the new group forming networks. I think is huge. How it's going to happen, I don't know. I know we have the talent and the energy and the people in the room to make it happen, though. And one of the things about appreciative inquiry is that the people in the room are sufficient to make it happen. So I don't think we need to be talking about what other people can do or what they have to do and mount a campaign to change the UN or something. I just want to see something happen. So that's one of the things I'd like to do in the afternoon, is through an open space thing and see if we can generate some energy. Silas has agreed to do some short video work. We want to do a 3-minute video. Did I talk about rinse, lather, repeat already? Yes? See, I'm repeating myself already. But the idea of coming up with a quick video of our stories, and just enough to give some kind of the flavor, the energy here, and trigger off maybe a kind of a SWAT team of people in the area that we could react to a new issue, something else, some new pulse comes up. Let's do a video about it, get it out on YouTube, and we got 3 minutes and something's happening. Nipun, by the way, was way over modest in his introduction of what he's been doing. He's so far ahead of me in taking action and making these things happen. But the other thing is the continuity of these things. As I said, Nipun and Gavin and I were active in certain ones, and just kind of been rolling forward these workshops. I like to have about half of the people as repeats and the other half newcomers. And you just generate this interest level, and it's always just one link away of friends saying, oh, you should meet so-and-so. It's not a promotional thing. I call it an attractor network rather than a promotion network. And we're just attracting interesting people that want to make the world a better place. I'm trying to grow it slowly and effectively so that we'll come together, have this neat meeting, all this energy, but it'll be following through. We have a thing called Better World Network that Howard is one of the initiators of. Dean Landsman will be here too. Dean's another person. we started out with an audio podcast model and kind of got into video, and we haven't fully defined it yet, but it's cost $4.95 a month to do our network TV station, and even that's extravagant. We could have done it for free. So as you can tell, I'm really into cheapness. I'm not quite sure where I got that streak.